so ashamed of doing this. I told my AP I'm single, but he met my husband and then they did this.
My affair ran into my husband and greeted him because I told him that's my brother. I'm screwed. Help me. I really need advice, please. Hi, Redditors. I'm Greta and I am in big trouble right now. This is going to take a while, so please just read till the end. I am 25 years old, living fine and happily married. Well, it was supposed to be that way, not until I screwed up. And hopefully this does not lead to my divorce and the end of my marriage life. My life has not always been so jolly or smooth. In fact, it was very much like I suffered growing up. Initially, though, I had the life any kid would dream of. A loving and caring parent, nice friends around, and getting everything that I wished for. My dad worked as a pilot, and he was always traveling around the world, while my mom was a model. They both didn't usually have the time to take care of me, and they left me with the maids. But they made up for it by taking a week off every month from their respective jobs, and that became a routine, until something tragic happened. On this particular day, I had given my dad a handmade bracelet as a lucky charm before he left for work, and kissed him goodbye on his cheek. Little did I know that it was the last time I would be seeing him that day. The plane he was piloting was reportedly faulty, and he was not informed beforehand. My dad and about 28 other people ended up dying while several people got injured. My mom and I were both devastated by the news, and my mom fainted out of shock. Later, we found out she was pregnant. Months passed, and we were still mourning his death. Eventually, we tried to move on. Due to her pregnancy, my mom could not model anymore as they rejected her because she added a few pounds. We could only stay at home without working. My mom gave birth to my junior brother, who's 15 years old now. Joy filled the air, and she cried tears of joy missing my father. So she named him Eric Jr. after my dad. After giving birth, my mom tried going back to her modeling career again, but they didn't take her back because they said she had added weight and she was not looking pretty any longer after Eric's birth. Mom felt defeated, but she pulled herself together and decided to focus on looking after my brother and I. We grew up quite quickly, going to school and living our life. Soon it was our birthday. Our birthday coincidentally fell on the same day. Eric and I had the best birthday of our life, my 18th and his 8th birthday then. But we didn't know that would be the last good birthday we would be having, because my mom broke the news that we were bankrupt and we would move away from that house to a much smaller one. We were both dumbfounded, but we had no choice than to do that. My mom had to work 2 jobs, as a cleaning lady and a waitress, just to afford sending me to college and my younger brother to a new school. I started college quite far away from home on scholarship studying cosmetology so that I can be a makeup artist. I also took up a part-time sales attendant job at a grocery shop, and that is where I met him, my present husband, Noah, looking all handsome and nice. He was a regular customer at the grocery shop, and finally, we started talking. I was reluctant at first, but I finally decided to share my personal information with him, including my phone number. It turned out that Noah was also in my college, but a year ahead of me and was majoring in architecture. He was kind, caring, understanding, smart, and also very handsome. I actually fell for him at first sight, but obviously I could not say anything to him because I was a coward. We started talking, and I don't know how much time had passed, but we began hanging out. He would always come to the store and wait until my shift ended just to hang out with me. We both enjoyed each other's company, and he was fun to be with. Honestly, I was always eager to finish my shift and go to him not only to hear his jokes, but to see his handsome face too. I was just so in love. I was falling behind with my rent and decided to take a midnight job at the bar as a stripper. Yes, I know it is a wrong thing to do, but the salary from my first job was not sufficient, so I had to work another job. I hid this fact from Noah as I was scared that he would judge me, and we just continued our friendship until my 20th birthday, where he gifted me a shiny silver necklace and asked me to be his girlfriend. He told me that he had always loved me from the very first time he saw me at the store, and he only came to buy things every day just so he could see me, even though some of what he bought was not needed, and he gave them out sometimes. I reluctantly accepted because of the work I was doing and the fact that I didn't want him to find out. By the way, Noah was from a very wealthy family. His father owns a shipping company, while his mother died immediately after he was born. We started dating, and I told him my life history, excluding the part where I worked as a stripper, and he also told me his. Things were going on fine, and we loved each other so much. He bought a lot of gifts for me and showered me with love, although it was exhausting trying to hang out with Noah and working as a stripper, but I still managed to hide that fact from him. Noah was always so serious about his studies and always put his best in it, and I also loved him for that. He had always told me that he wanted to do something else different from what his father was doing, and was determined to show his father that he could be successful without doing the passed-down family business. To be honest, his over-seriousness actually gave me the time to focus on my gig at the club. Soon, I was almost done with college, and I also planned on leaving behind my stripper job. Happy that all this while, Noah never suspected anything, which was good for me. I was able to take care of Mom and my younger brother now since I had Noah. I left the job behind and decided to focus on the future. I had already had quite enough for myself anyways. I took Noah to finally meet my mom and Eric, and he bonded quickly with them. I was at peace of mind that we would end up together forever as we had promised each other. He also took me to meet his dad, but his dad didn't like me. I had no idea why. One day, Noah proposed to me and I accepted without thinking twice, and we started the marriage preparations quickly. I chose my wedding dress and I decided to go for silver, unlike the usual white, and finalized the wedding date with our pastor. We chose a great location for our reception, and we also planned our honeymoon journey. I wanted us to travel around the world, but we agreed on going to Miami to spend it there. It was the day of our wedding, 6 months after his proposal. I woke up and danced happily as I took my bath, wore my beautiful silver wedding gown, and I adorned myself with the same silver necklace he had gifted me before. I also got my makeup done and went to meet my beloved at the altar. Noah was already waiting for me patiently, as he looked radiant in his silver suit with black taping around the neck. We proceeded with the wedding ceremony, said our I-do's, went to the reception for some dancing and fun games, and when we finished, we went to our new home, which was designed by Noah himself. Days later, we went for our honeymoon, and it was one of the best times of my life, just like my wedding. My husband literally did not even let me out of his sight for a second. We played around all day and slept with each other all night. I felt loved because our honeymoon lasted for a month and we were back home later. Our marriage was going smoothly. Noah started his own architectural business, and I settled on doing makeup for actresses and models, so my job was not too strenuous compared to Noah's. I only get to go for makeup like 3 times a week, and I come back early after work, so I am mostly at home, and naturally I yearn for a tender touch from my husband. He was always there for me, and he always played with me, cared for me, gave me kisses, but suddenly, we grew kind of distant, and he became so busy that he rarely pays any attention to me. I felt like a piece of furniture just laying around the house. He always prioritized his work over me, and he came home late. At first, I thought I did something wrong, but as it turned out, I did not, and his excuse was that he needed to build his career to the top, so he has to let go of any distraction for now, and when he makes it big, then he can have time for me, and we can even make babies. He told me that he was too busy to give me what I wanted, and when I complained, he said that I was acting like a baby. He didn't even sleep with me again like before. I was so angry, so I decided to go to my mom's place to unwind, and I told her everything that was happening between me and Noah. I cried as I narrated everything to her, and she told me that sometimes it was normal for things like this to happen in a marriage, and I am lucky that he still thought about me even though he does not have my time. She also told me that it was just a phase, it would pass soon. She calmed me down and said I should be patient with him, and he would come around soon. As time passed, I was so pissed that I also decided to spend a little bit more time at our studio, even if there was no work, and I also began to come late and give the same excuse as he did. Surprisingly, he did not protest and even encouraged me to continue like that. That was when I started having an affair with someone I met out of frustration. My husband decided that he would be spending the night at his office sometimes. He even forgot our anniversary, and when I eventually reminded him, he told me that he was sorry that he was so busy and he would make it up to me. Guess how he did that? He asked his assistant, Miles, to bring me some gifts and take me shopping the next day. When he came back home, he did not even say anything about that and went to bed immediately. I went to my mother the next day because I was so angry at this point, and I ended up transferring my aggression to my poor little brother, but I consoled him with the gifts I bought for him. I explained everything to my mother, who still gave me her usual lecture about patience and perseverance. I left her place later thinking about her words, but the feeling of abandonment in me overpowered the lectures I received from my mother earlier. Noah, too, was not helping the situation, and I began to feel even more lonely. So I just decided to start going to the bar to unwind and get over my feelings. The person I was referring to was Jack. I met Jack while I was drowning myself with alcohol one day at a bar. Noah had called me that day and told me that he would be spending the night at his office as he wanted to finish a design that he was working on. I went to a bar out of frustration and started drinking when Jack came to the counter and sat beside me, lecturing me on not taking too much alcohol and the effect it had on my body. He said it in such a funny way that I could not help but laugh. We started talking, and for a moment, I forgot all about my frustration and sadness. He asked for my number before he hastily left, and I gave him without having a second thought. With the excuse of working late hours, I started meeting Jack at night, and when he asked about my personal life, I told him that I was single and he was elated, and he looked like a happy child with a lollipop. I know I shouldn't have said that, and that was the first mistake I made. I saw that day as a chance because that morning I had taken off my ring due to the fact that I just didn't want to wear it anymore. It wasn't like Noah had time for me to even notice I didn't wear a ring. Anyways, Jack then told me that he was single too and that he was a doctor. His parents died as a kid, so he had to live with his uncle. And one of the reasons he actually became a doctor was to care for his ailing uncle who succumbed to his illness recently. Honestly, I was having the best moments of my life. Jack was fun to be with, and at first I thought because he was a doctor. I felt it was going to be harder to talk to him, but now I know that not all doctors are boring. He was a sweet and romantic person too. Anyways, I loved his personality, and I fell in love with him without realizing. The void Noah left in me by not fulfilling was filled by Jack. We started hanging out a lot of times, and before I knew it, I slept with him one day when I went to his place. He saw nothing wrong because I told him I was single, but I shouldn't have done that because I knew it was wrong. Eventually, we slept together any chance we got, and I began to drift away slowly from Noah. Although I had to pretend in the presence of both men, I was able to do just fine and enjoyed my life. My mom began to notice a change in my behavior, and I think she began to suspect me. She sat me down and asked if I was doing something wrong. I eventually told her what happened, and she was so disappointed at me for stooping so low in my actions and having an affair with another guy. She said that not only am I lying to both guys, but I am also harming myself in the process. She also told me that the aftermath was going to be extremely fatal. I smiled and told her that I would take care of everything myself, so I didn't listen to her and continued my affair with Jack. One day my secret was almost exposed, but I was able to cover it. I was at Jack's place, and he took some pictures of us with my phone. While he was checking it, he asked if he could check my other pictures, and I gave him the permission to. He then stumbled upon pictures of me and Noah. Luckily, it was not our wedding picture, but there were so many pictures of me and Noah together on my phone. I lied, saying that Noah was my brother, and took away the phone from him. He bought the lie, and I was saved, and our affair continued. And deep down in my mind, I was worried about how I would react if Jack decided to propose to me. I always thought about this while I continued with my double life as a wife and as a girlfriend. Meanwhile, Noah began to succeed and his career was blooming. He had quite a number of investors now, and he started to get better at home. He kisses me goodbye now before going to work. He bought me lots of gifts and started nurturing me, but all these did not stop me from meeting Jack though, because I wanted more than that. I continued to meet up with him, and my mom was so pissed off that for the first time she shouted at me and hit me, and even forbade me from meeting with Jack again. She also threatened to tell Noah about my illicit affairs. I reluctantly accepted after she said that, being the stubborn person that I am. I called Jack to meet with him immediately after my mom left. Now the real tragedy arrived. Noah came back home all moody, sad, and angry. In our years together, I have never seen him this angry. I asked what was wrong, but he did not give me any response and stormed off to the room. I tried seducing him at night while we were sleeping as I was in the mood to make love, but he turned me down. I didn't mind and only thought that he had started with his attitude of not caring. So I brushed it off and just went to sleep, but he displayed the same behavior when he woke up. And at this point, I started feeling weird. I could not meet with Jack as I was not feeling so well, so I decided to stay at home and rest. This continued for a while, and one day I snapped at him and asked why he had been treating me like an object. But he retorted back saying that I was a monster, and deep down, I knew what I had done. I felt uneasy, but I regained my composure and pretended like I knew nothing. This only pissed Noah up, and he only screamed out of frustration and left angrily. At this point, I was scared, so I decided to go to Jack and probably end things with him. But he was not in his home. Neither was he at the hospital either. I called him, but he did not pick up, and he also did not reply to all the messages I sent to him. Now, I was legit feeling so scared. I managed to stand firm until my husband came back from work and tried seducing him and sweet-talking him. But none of this worked. He rejected me, and finally he snapped and called me all sorts of names. He was so angry, and the first question he asked was if I knew who Dr. Jack was. I was so dumbfounded, but I pretended like I did not know who that was. He repeated the question again, and when I replied negatively, he lost it and pressured me into telling him the truth. When I resisted, he revealed something shocking. Apparently, they did some health checkup at work, so they were all supposed to go to the hospital. And on that very day, he was to meet with a new doctor, and that is where he met Jack. He said that after the checkup, Jack had addressed him as my own brother, telling him about how much he loved me, wanted to marry me, and even went as far as saying that Noah should talk to me on his behalf. I was puzzled at this revelation, and at this time my mom's words came rushing through my brain, and I realized that I was wrong, and my mom was right, but it was too late. Noah told me that he did not react at first, but when Jack said that they had been dating for almost 3 months and mentioned how they met at a bar, and I told him that I was single, he was so livid and showed him our wedding pictures, which shattered Jack. He said Jack apologized to him and told him he didn't know. I didn't know what to say. Noah left the house after telling me this, and I have not been able to contact him ever since. I tried calling and texting, but to no avail, and I was back to being lonely. Now, I understand my mother's words, but it is too late. If only I could turn back the hands of time, then I would have been patient and waited for him to come around like my mother said. Please, I need advice because I don't know what to do. * comments *, Reddit user. 1 *. Greta, just talk to him and fix what is broken. You should have done that initially, but now that things have gotten to this point, you just have to be apologetic and talk to him sincerely. * Reddit user. 2 *. You just spoiled your marriage, silly woman. You had it coming, though. You should have just been patient. Now, see what you have caused. Deal with it yourself. * Reddit user 3. * You should have listened to your mother when she was advising you. It is your life, so get hold of it. * Reddit user 4. Honestly speaking, you do not deserve to stay in his house any longer. First you cheated, then you lied, and you didn't even listen to your mother when she advised you. If I was Noah, I would divorce you without giving it a second thought. Update. Since my husband left the house without saying anything, I tried reaching him, but it was to no avail. I went to his office, but I met Miles instead, and he told me Noah was not around, even though his car was parked outside and I could clearly hear his voice. I left there feeling dejected, and went to his father's house thinking that I could maybe get his father to talk to him. But since his father hated me from the beginning, I was not even given the chance to say a word. His dad lashed out at me and asked that I leave his house before he had me arrested. I left there reluctantly for my mother's house, where I received the harshest words one could ever say to a person. She said that now I understood her words, and now I can see the consequences of my actions. She also told me that I am to take responsibility for my actions and not to meet with her until I fix what I had broken. I went back home and cried myself to sleep, regretting the decisions I made. I deleted Jack's number and everything that reminded me of him. When I wanted to block him from Instagram, I saw that he had moved in with his female best friend and is getting married soon. This revelation even made me even more hurt. I also received a call from my workplace that I was fired because they heard about what happened between me and my husband, and it was going to tarnish the image of their company. I felt so hurt and devastated even more. I thought it wouldn't get any worse until Noah came in with his friend, who was also his lawyer, and told me he was going to divorce me. He said he had signed the divorce papers and it was my turn. I didn't answer, and I screamed at me because it was his fault for abandoning me and not paying any attention to me. He prioritized his work over me, and that was what made me cheat. He ignored everything I said, but he said that I had to sign the divorce papers, and I was not getting any penny from him because I cheated, and there was evidence that he would submit to the court during our trial. He left the divorce paper and left me there crying, while he stormed out with his friend, and I was screaming for him to come back, and it was his fault. Now, I am divorced, pregnant with Jack's child, and unemployed, living alone with my mom and brother, who welcomed me even with my mistakes. I tried to reach out to Jack about his baby, but he never replied. I don't know what the future holds for me, but as of now I am suffering, and I would not recommend that anyone make the same mistakes that I make, no matter what. You have to be patient and find a way to communicate with your partner, because communication is key. I learned this the hard way. A handsome neighbor offered to help fix my faucet while my husband was gone. And yeah, I did it. No, it's funny how your life could just change in a twinkle of an eye. I recently did something stupid. I don't even know what came over me. I let my neighbor overstep boundaries and do things he shouldn't have done with me. I gave him permission to step into my house. Oh my, I'm very stupid. I allowed my emotions to get the best of me. I honestly don't know how I got here, but one thing is certain. I totally regret everything now, but I guess it's too late already. I've lost everything already. I'm so ashamed of myself right now. I messed up big time. I don't even know how to tell my story. I'm not proud of what I did. My handsome neighbor offered to help fix my faucet while my husband was gone, and somehow I slept with him. Everything happened so fast that I couldn't even control myself. Now I'm losing my mind because everything went south so fast. My husband ruined my life after finding out that I slept with our neighbor. He took everything from me and made me a laughingstock. My husband divorced me immediately when he found out I had an affair with our neighbor. He left me nothing. He didn't even think about the 5 years we have spent together. He just threw everything out to the wind. I knew he wasn't going to be happy when he found out I cheated on him, but I didn't expect him to react the way he did. I didn't know I married a heartless man. My name is Chloe, and I'm a 29-year-old elementary school teacher. I have been an elementary school teacher for the past 5 years now. The name of my husband is Patrick, and he is a 30-year-old nurse. Patrick and I have been married for the past 5 years now, and I can tell you without mincing any words that Patrick is a good man. He is my God-sent shining armor. Patrick is everything I ever wanted in a man. Although he is not perfect, no one is perfect. I can tell you for a fact that Patrick is almost perfect. That's why everything hurts so much. It doesn't deserve this from me. I know there's no chance in hell that Patrick would forgive me if he ever finds out I cheated on him with our neighbor, and that it wasn't actually a one-time thing. Everything happened so fast that I felt weak. I wish I did things differently. I wouldn't be in this mess right now. I honestly regret everything that happened that day. It feels surreal. So on that particular day, I wanted to a bath, and I discovered my faucet wasn't working. I was running late for work, and I needed to have my bath before leaving. There was no way I was going to head for working smelling like lasagna. So I hurriedly stepped out looking for help. But unfortunately for me, I didn't find any help. So I decided to go back in and make a call for help. But on my way back, I met our handsome neighbor, Rock. Rock is a very handsome man. He has all the physical features every woman would want, and his body was beautifully built. Rock is a fitness coach, so I wasn't surprised he has an amazing body. Rock just recently parked to the building opposite ours, so he stopped me to ask some few questions. I was running late for work, but I decided to spare a few minutes and just chat with him, so it wouldn't seem I was rude or something. After putting Rock through on what he needed, he asked what was wrong and told him my faucet just suddenly stopped working. He asked to take a look if that was okay by me. I honestly wanted to decline, but I didn't have a choice because I had to go be at work early and I was already late. I knew it will take time before help finally arrives, so I reluctantly accepted Rock's offer. I wish I never did, though. That was the genesis of my problems. So we went inside the house, and I took Rock straight to our bathroom. Rock pulled off his clothes and started checking the faucet to see what was wrong. He claimed he didn't want to stain his clothes. Rock's body was a beautiful sight to behold. At that point, I couldn't hold myself anymore. There was this undeniable chemistry between us. That was it, guys. One thing led to another, and I slept with Rock. I felt so ashamed of myself. I couldn't believe I broke my marriage vows. I couldn't even believe I cheated on Patrick, my husband, with our who just parked in barely a week ago. I was so lost for words. I didn't know what to do at that point. The only thing that was running through my head was, what will Patrick do when he finds out I cheated on? I immediately asked Rock to leave and that he should never show himself before me again. But the truth is, I didn't mean what I was saying. Deep down in my heart, I wanted him to stay. So he left, and I hurriedly took my bath and rushed to work. I couldn't concentrate on work all through that day. I kept thinking about Rock and the good time we had together. I was also lost in thought about what Patrick would do if he ever finds out I cheated on him. Patrick has been out of town for work for 3 consecutive months now, so I was lonely, and I let my loneliness get the best of me. My affair with Rock continued, and I couldn't bring myself to stop. Everything was going smoothly, and I was enjoying the undivided attention I was getting from Rock until Patrick returned from his. Trouble started when Patrick returned and didn't find me in our home. I forgot to tell you guys that I actually moved in with Rock in his apartment. So when Patrick returned by 10 p.m. on that fateful day and didn't meet me at our apartment, he called me to ask of my whereabouts, and I lied to him that I was at home. He asked which home, and I told him our home. I was getting annoyed with his questions at this point because he was already running my movie date with Rock. To my greatest surprise, he asked me to stop lying and told me he was at our apartment. At that point, guys, I jumped from Rock's arm. I froze for a few seconds. I immediately ended the call and started thinking of what to do next. I told Rock about my predicament, and he came up with a lie for me, so I rushed to our apartment. When I saw how furious Patrick was, I decided to go with Rock's idea. I lied to Patrick that I was nauseous and just stepped out to the neighborhood for fresh air, and that I knew it was late. That was why I couldn't tell I was outside taking a walk, as I didn't want him to be worried. From the look on Patrick's face, I knew he didn't believe anything I was saying, but he didn't have any proof, so he let the matter go. He told me he trusts me, and he knows I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the love we have. That word broke me. It was at that point that I really repented for all my wrongdoings. I felt bad for breaking the trust Patrick had in me, and for allowing lust and loneliness take the best of me. I wasn't myself. I wanted to confess so badly, but I was scared. I didn't know how Patrick was going to react. Patrick and I promised each other that we would never cheat under any circumstances. I was even the one that made Patrick promise me he wouldn't cheat on me when he was going on his trip. So we both promised each other we would be faithful to one another. I can't believe I broke that promise. Patrick said he wanted to surprise me, and that was why he arrived without informing me, even though we spoke earlier on the phone. Patrick started suspecting something was wrong with me. According to him, it seems I wasn't happy to see him. Every day he would ask continuously if something was wrong because I was always lost and moody. I wanted to confess, but I didn't have the balls to do that. The thought of losing my marriage scared the shit out of me. I couldn't confess to Patrick about my cheating escape. I knew he wouldn't understand why I cheated. Even I don't understand the reason I cheated. I can't even explain it. Patrick is a one-in-a-lifetime kind of man. Every woman would be so lucky to have him in their lives. I can't believe I ruined everything by sleeping with our neighbor. Patrick made sure he provided everything I needed. Money was never my problem. Even though I work, I hardly spend my money. Patrick is the one that does everything for me. I was only working because of my passion for teaching and children. I love kids so much, they literally melt my heart. Update. Hi guys, I'm back to update you guys on what happened next. I thought everything would just disappear with time, but I guess it is true what they say that nothing can be hidden forever. I thought my secret would be hidden forever, but I was wrong. After blocking Rock on phone calls and all social media and warning him to stay away from me, I thought that was the end of everything, but I was wrong. One day while Patrick and I were enjoying the cool natural breeze on our corridor, a crazy lady stormed up on our property and started making a scene. She started by calling me all sorts of derogatory names, and before I could even say a word, she gave me a dirty slap. At this point, Patrick had to step in. He stood between me and the lady and held me while questioning the lady why she slapped me. The lady told Patrick to stay out of the matter and he would be more pissed if he found out what I did. At this point, I was confused. I didn't think far. I thought it was just an angry lady who was having a bad day transferring her aggression at me. But my heart skipped when I saw Rock heading towards our apartment. Apparently, the lady is Rock's girlfriend. I felt embarrassed that day, guys. I wanted the ground to open so I could just disagree. I can never forget that day. I still remember everything vividly. The lady went on to accuse me of stealing her man and even cohabiting with. She called me a shameless and uncultured woman. Patrick stopped her and told her that maybe there was a mix-up somewhere and that I wasn't capable of such an act. Patrick asked me to say something and defend myself at least. But unfortunately, I couldn't utter a word. The only word that came out of my mouth was sorry. I knelt down and started apologizing to Patrick, and to my greatest surprise, he gave me another dirty slap and went inside. He left me outside with Rock and the crazy angry lady. Rock was finally able to drag his crazy girlfriend away from the house, but not after she had finished raining curses on me. She even wanted to get physical with me, but Rock was able to pull her away just in time. I couldn't believe what was happening. It all felt like a dream to me. The secret I have been trying to hide has finally been exposed. I felt ashamed of myself. At that point, I realized the lust was not worth losing my marriage over. I blamed myself for ruining my marriage with my own hands. I decided to go inside so I could at least explain things to Patrick, but I couldn't open the door. Apparently, Patrick had locked me outside. Worst of it all was that my phone was inside and I couldn't call anyone. I tried calling out to him severally to please open the door so I could at least explain everything to him, but all my pleas went on deaf ears. He refused to open the door, and I actually slept outside that night. The following morning, I woke up to Patrick throwing my clothes in the trash. I tried stopping him, but he sternly warned me not to try anything funny. Patrick threw my clothes outside and asked me to leave his house. I couldn't believe my eyes. It felt like I was having a nightmare. I continued pleading with Patrick to please forgive me, but he took the car and drove off. Before going, he warned me to get my things and get back before he returned, else he would call the cops on me for trespassing. The look on his face says it all. I couldn't even recognize the man talking to me. It felt like I was talking to a complete stranger. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this reaction from Patrick. I knew he would be angry, but why was he treating me like an outcast? Even to the extent of locking me outside and throwing out my clothes in the trash and even threatening to call the cops on me. One was certain. Patrick has changed. He is not the man I married 5 years ago. I mean, didn't he promise for better for worse? Why would he chase me out for just a silly mistake? I was so pissed at Patrick that I started regretting getting married to him in the first place. I didn't know he was this heartless. I picked my clothes and phone from where Patrick had trashed my belongings, so I called an Uber and went to my friend's house. I explained everything to her, and she asked me to give Patrick time so that he would come around. I listened to her advice because I know that time is the greatest healer, but the more I tried to convince myself that I did nothing wrong, the more I feel guilty. 3 days later, I got a call that changed everything. It was a call from our lawyer. He asked me to come to his office because he wanted to see me urgently. I went to meet him, and I got the biggest shock of my life. Patrick had filed for a divorce. Honestly, I never expected that. I thought it was a prank at first. But when I gave me a pen to sign the papers, it dawned on me that it was definitely not a joke. Of course, I refused to sign the divorce papers. I told him I will have to see Patrick before I sign anything. I was scared at that point, but I had to act tough. My worst fear was finally coming to pass. I can't imagine my life without Patrick. There's no way I would divorce him, I said to myself as I headed to our house. Or should I say our former house? I arrived at our apartment. Luckily for me, the front door was opened. I met Patrick at the house drinking and smoking with a strange lady. I couldn't believe my eyes. Just 3 days after I left, Patrick had moved on. I can't explain how I felt at the moment. It was then I finally understood what Patrick might have felt when he discovered I cheated on him. I felt bad seeing Patrick and that lady. I was so hurt that I started crying. I knelt down and started begging him to forgive me. I asked the strange lady to excuse Patrick and I, but she refused to move an inch. So I begged Patrick to at least follow me outside so we could talk, but he said, I should say anything I have to there or leave if I don't have anything to say. I had to confess my cheating scandal to my husband and his new lover. I didn't have an option. I thought he would forgive me when I told him the truth. But instead, he got more furious when he discovered I usually slept with Rock in our apartment. He pushed me out and asked me to leave and never show my face before him again. He called me all sorts of unprintable names. His new girlfriend joined him to rain curses at me. I left there ashamed of myself and hurt. After trying everything possible to make Patrick change his mind with no results, I finally signed the divorce papers. The divorce proceedings are another phase entirely. I hated the entire process. It made me sick, but I didn't have an option. I had to appear in court for every hearing. And finally, Patrick and I got divorced. That was the worst day of my entire life. I never imagined Patrick and I would ever get divorced when we got married in San Francisco 5 years ago. That is one of my best memories till date. I can't believe I ruined that because I couldn't keep myself together. I know there was no way I would ever find a man like Patrick ever again. He was too good to be real. Honestly, I regret everything I did. I regret cheating on my husband. How I wish I could turn back the hands of time. I would have done things differently. I would have just left for work without showering on that fateful day, or I would have declined Rock's request of helping me to fix my faucet, or I could have controlled myself and not fall for Rock's charm. I was just thinking of things I could have done differently, but didn't. My life became a mess after the divorce. Everything wasn't making sense again. I didn't know where to start. I was completely lost. Patrick made sure I didn't get a penny from him. Not that I wanted his money, though. He didn't allow me to take all the valuable things he ever bought for me. He didn't even allow me to take the car he bought for me on my birthday 3 years ago. I was jumping from one Uber to another. My salary was barely enough. It was after the divorce that I knew the value of what I had. I wasn't really spending my salary on anything. I spent my salary mostly on junks. Patrick was the one that was running the house with his money. He paid all the bills. So it was hard for me to adjust to paying my own bills after having someone do that for me for the past 5 years now. I struggle with almost everything. Bills were piling up and I couldn't afford to pay. Worst of all is that I had no savings. Patrick stopped footing my dad's medical bills. My dad has been sick for a while now, and Patrick solely took the responsibility of catering for his medication. After our divorce, Patrick stopped doing all that. All the burden was now on me. The medications were expensive. I didn't even know it was this expensive because Patrick never told me anything about it. He just took the bills from the doctor and was paying for it every month. He even stopped sending my parents upkeep money like he always does every month. I never knew Patrick was this heartless, though. How could he stop paying my dad medication bills because we are divorced and he knew I couldn't afford it? Doesn't he have a little human sympathy? All this was what was running through my mind. I was honestly disappointed in him, but I don't blame him. I would have done the same if I was in his shoes. Everything was my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. I became homeless after my friend was transferred to another state and she relocated fully there. I was chased out of the apartment because I could not afford to pay for rent. I became homeless. Everything happened in a twinkle of an eye. It still baffles me to understand how I went from living in a comfortable apartment to squatting with my friend and now being homeless. Out of desperation, I decided to go visit Rock to see if we could continue from where we stopped, or if he could assist me with some money, or maybe I could squat with him for a few days. I arrived at Rock's apartment with full hope. I thought everything he would definitely ask me to come to stay with him since I was divorced now and there was no obstacle. But to my greatest surprise, Rock told me I couldn't stay at his place and that he has moved on and I should do the same. I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe my ears. I asked him for money and he told me he didn't have any money because his rich girlfriend that used to give him broke up with him thanks to me, and he is trying to woo her back and that he can't risk me ruining things for him any longer. Apparently, the crazy lady is filthy rich, and she was the one sponsoring Rock's extravagant lifestyle. Now I understand why he didn't do anything when the crazy lady was attacking me. Rock refused to assist me, instead he sent me away. I felt bad for myself. I can't even believe I ruined my marriage because of someone like Rock. How did I bring myself to cheat on a decent man who was earning an honest living with a man who could not feed himself, but depends on one entitled, spoiled rich lady for his daily meal? It was then it dawned on me that Rock was also using me too. I was the one paying for food and everything all through the time we were having an affair. He always claimed his cards were not working every damn time. I was footing his bills with the money Patrick was sending to me. How foolish of me. Rock masterminded everything, and unfortunately I fell for his tricks. I decided to move on with my life, but it wasn't really easy. But I started building my life from all over again. I started staying with my high school friend Charlotte, who is a baker. I told her my ordeal. She had pity on me and offered me her place to stay. While staying with her, I started assisting her in her store and also started learning how to bake. Baking became therapeutic for me. Slowly, I'm beginning to forgive myself for ruining my life with my own hands and for hurting the man that loved me unconditionally. I still feel bad for everything, and I still cry myself to bed every night. No day passes by without me feeling sorry for Patrick. I know he doesn't deserve what I put him through. Deep down, I still hope he will forgive me, and we can still come back together because I honestly don't picture my life with anyone else apart from Patrick. That is my story, guys. I hope everyone, especially ladies, gets to read my story and hopefully learn something from it. Not all the glitters are gold. Don't hurt a good man because you feel you found someone better. I hope we all learn to stay faithful in our marriage so we don't end up like me.